This man was kidnapped, tortured, and forced to witness his own death. But what he experienced in those final hours was far worse than dying itself.
I remember everything. Every second feels like it's still happening, like I'm trapped inside that moment with no way out. It didn't start with fear. That's the strange part. It started like any other night. Calm, normal, predictable. I was laughing just hours before everything changed. I had no reason to think something was wrong. No warning, no sign, nothing that told me I was already walking into something I wouldn't come back from. Daniel was there. He had always been there. Someone I trusted without thinking. We had known each other long enough that I never questioned him. That kind of trust doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, through shared experiences, late-night conversations, small details that make someone feel familiar, safe. He knew my routine, my habits, the way I think. And I thought I knew him just as well. That's what makes it worse. Looking back now, there were small things. Things I ignored. The way he spoke that night was different. Shorter sentences, longer pauses. He avoided looking directly at me sometimes, like he was distracted or thinking about something else. At the time, it didn't feel like danger. It just felt off. Something I noticed, but didn't question. Because why would I? It was him. When he suggested we go out for a drive, I didn't hesitate. I didn't even think about it. That's how normal it felt. The streets were unusually quiet, but even that didn't seem strange at first. It was just one of those nights where everything feels still. Too still, maybe. But I didn't realize that yet. Not until it was too late. The headlights appeared suddenly, bright, blinding for a moment. The car stopped in front of us so fast it didn't make sense. Before I could even process what was happening, the doors opened. Everything after that moved too quickly. 3 men stepped out, moving with purpose, like they had done this before. There was no hesitation in their movements, no confusion, just action. I turned to Daniel. I don't know what I expected. Maybe for him to react, to say something, to step in, to help. But he didn't. He just stood there, completely still, watching everything unfold like it had nothing to do with him. That was the moment something inside me shifted. It didn't feel random anymore. It didn't feel like an accident. It felt planned. They grabbed me before I could react properly. My body tried to resist, but nothing connected. My movements felt slow, useless, like I was already losing control. I tried to pull away, but their grip was too strong. Everything was happening at once. Too fast to understand, too overwhelming to process. The ground slipped away, and suddenly I wasn't standing anymore. I remember the impact when they threw me inside the car. My head hit something hard, and for a second, everything went silent. Not quiet, but empty. Like my brain had shut down just to keep up with what was happening. When I opened my eyes again, everything felt different. The space around me was smaller, tighter. I couldn't move the way I wanted to. My hands were tied. I didn't even remember when that happened. My body felt heavy, like it didn't belong to me anymore. The air was still, almost suffocating in a way I couldn't explain. I tried to speak, but my voice came out weak, shaky. I asked them what they wanted. It was the only thing that made sense to ask. No one answered. They just looked at me. Not angry, not rushed, not emotional. Just blank. Like I wasn't a person to them anymore. Like I was something else entirely. That's when the fear started to settle in. Not suddenly, not like a shock, but slowly, creeping in piece by piece. But even then, I didn't believe this was the end. That's the strange part. My mind kept trying to make sense of it. There had to be a reason. There had to be something they wanted. People don't just do this without a reason. That's what I told myself. That's what I held on to. Maybe it was money. Maybe information. Something I could give them. Something that would make this stop. I kept thinking if I stayed calm, if I said the right thing, I could get out of this. I just needed time. Time to think. Time to understand. There had to be a way out. There always is. My breathing got heavier without me noticing. My chest felt tight, like something was pressing down on it. The silence inside that space felt worse than anything else. It stretched every second, made everything feel longer, heavier. Not knowing what they wanted, not knowing what they were going to do, that uncertainty was the worst part. I started thinking about things I hadn't thought about in a long time. My family, my mother, the last conversation we had. It was normal, nothing special. I didn't think it needed to be. I thought there would always be another chance, another call, another day. And still, I believed I could get out of it. That belief didn't go away. Not even when one of them stepped closer. Slowly, calmly, like there was no rush, no urgency, like everything was already decided. Something inside me reacted to that, but I couldn't explain what it was. It wasn't clarity. It wasn't understanding. Just a feeling that something wasn't right. But even then, I held on to the same thought. This isn't over. It can't be. The closer he got, the more I tried to control my breathing, like somehow staying calm would change what was happening. I told myself this was still something I could fix, something I could talk my way out of. People don't just go this far without a reason. There has to be something they want. There has to be a way this ends without everything falling apart. That thought kept repeating in my head, louder than anything else, drowning out the fear that was slowly building underneath it. I tried to speak again, this time forcing the words out more clearly, trying to sound steady even though I wasn't. I told him I could help, that whatever this was, it didn't have to go further. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded distant, like I was hearing it from somewhere else. Still, I kept talking. Because silence felt worse. Silence meant nothing was changing. No one responded. Not a single reaction. That's when I started to notice something else. It wasn't just that they weren't answering me. It was the way they were looking at me. Not angry, not rushed, not even interested. Just empty. Like whatever this was, it had already been decided long before I got there. That realization didn't fully land, not yet. My mind kept pushing it away, refusing to accept it. I shifted slightly, testing the restraints on my hands without making it obvious. They were tight, too tight. The kind that doesn't loosen no matter how much you move. My fingers felt cold, stiff. I tried to move them, just to make sure I still could. I could. Barely. That small movement gave me something to hold on to. If I could move, I wasn't completely stuck. If I wasn't completely stuck, then maybe, just maybe, there was still a way out. The car slowed down. I didn't realize how fast we had been moving until that moment. The sudden change made everything feel heavier, more real. The sound of the engine lowered, the motion became smoother, and then it stopped. Completely. For a second, no one moved. That silence again. Then the door opened. The cold air hit my face, sharp and unexpected. I didn't know where we were. There were no familiar sounds, no traffic, no voices, just emptiness. One of them grabbed me again, pulling me out of the car before I could react. My legs barely held my weight. It felt like my body was still catching up to everything that had already happened. I tried to look around, trying to understand where they had taken me, but it was too dark to see clearly. Shapes, shadows, nothing more. No landmarks, nothing recognizable. Just a place that didn't feel like it belonged to anything I knew. They didn't rush. That was the worst part. Everything they did felt controlled, deliberate. Like there was no urgency, because there didn't need to be. Like they had all the time in the world. That thought started to push against the hope I was holding on to, but I forced it back. I couldn't let that take over. Not yet. I spoke again, louder this time. I asked them to stop. I told them they didn't have to do this. I said I could fix whatever this was. I kept repeating it over and over, trying different words, different tones, anything that might get a reaction. Still nothing. It was like talking into a void. They moved me forward, step by step, guiding me without saying a word. My feet dragged slightly, not because I wanted to slow down, but because everything felt heavier than it should. My head was spinning, trying to keep up, trying to understand what was happening, trying to find something, anything that made sense. There had to be a mistake. That thought came back stronger now. Maybe they had the wrong person. Maybe this wasn't about me at all. That made more sense. That had to be it. I held on to that idea, repeating it in my head, trying to make it real. This isn't me, I said louder now. You've got the wrong person. For the first time, one of them reacted. Not with words, just a slight pause, a glance, and then a nothing. They kept moving. That tiny reaction should have meant something. It should have given me hope. Instead, it made everything feel worse. Because it wasn't enough. It didn't change anything. It didn't stop what was happening. They pushed me into a space I couldn't fully see. The air changed again, more enclosed this time. The sound shifted slightly, like we were inside something now. A room, maybe. I couldn't tell. My eyes were still trying to adjust, but everything felt wrong. Too quiet. Too controlled. They sat me down. Not violently. Not aggressively. Just placed me there. Like I wasn't resisting anymore. And maybe I wasn't. Not really. Not in the way I should have been. Because my mind was still trying to solve it. Still trying to find the answer that would make all of this stop. I tried again. Slower this time. More careful. Tell me what you want. Silence. I can give you anything. Silence. Money, information, anything. Nothing. That's when the doubt started to grow stronger. What if this wasn't about getting something? What if this wasn't something I could fix? No. I pushed that thought away immediately. That couldn't be true. It didn't make sense. There's always a reason. There's always something behind it. People don't just do this for nothing. My breathing picked up again. I tried to slow it down, but it wasn't working anymore. The control I thought I had was slipping. The thoughts were getting louder, faster, harder to manage. I looked toward where I thought the door was. Tried to map the space in my head. If I could understand where I was, maybe I could find a way out. If I could just get one moment, one chance. One of them moved again. Closer this time. I froze. Not because I wanted to, but because my body reacted before I could think. My muscles tightened. My breathing stopped for a second, and everything inside me went completely still. He stood there for a moment. Not speaking. Not rushing. Just watching me. And in that moment, something shifted again. Not enough to break the hope, but enough to crack it. Just slightly. Still, I held on to it, because without it, there was nothing else left to hold. The longer he stood there without saying anything, the more it started to feel like the silence itself was intentional. Not empty, not accidental, but controlled. Like it was part of whatever this was. And the more I thought about that, the harder it became to hold on to the idea that I could still fix this. I swallowed, trying to steady myself, trying to stay in control of something, anything. My mind kept jumping between thoughts, none of them staying long enough to make sense. One moment I was telling myself I could get out, the next I was questioning everything I thought I understood. It didn't feel real anymore. It felt like something I was watching from the outside, like if I focused hard enough, I would snap out of it. But I didn't. The air felt colder now. Not just physically, but in a way I couldn't explain. Like the space itself had changed. My body reacted before I could think about it, small shivers running through me, even though I wasn't sure why. I tried to ignore it. Focus on something else. Focus on staying calm. Think, there has to be a way. There's always a way. That thought came back again, but this time it didn't feel as strong. It felt forced, like I was repeating it because I didn't know what else to do. I looked at him again, trying to read something from his face. Anything. Anger. Frustration. Even a reaction would have been enough. But there was nothing. Just that same empty expression. Please. The words slipped out before I could stop it. I didn't want to sound like that. Weak. Desperate. But it came out anyway. I can help you, I said again, quieter this time. Just tell me what you want. For a moment, nothing changed. And then, a small movement. Not much. Just enough to notice. He shifted slightly, like he had finally acknowledged that I was there. Not as a person, but as something he was dealing with. That small reaction hit me harder than anything else so far. Because it meant something was happening. It meant I wasn't completely invisible. And somehow, that gave me hope again. I leaned into it. If this is about something, I can fix it, I said quickly, the words coming out faster now. You don't have to do this. Whatever this is, it doesn't have to go further. My voice was shaking again. I could hear it, feel it. But I kept going. Because stopping felt worse. Silence. Again. But different this time. It didn't feel empty anymore. It felt deliberate. Like he was choosing not to respond. That realization sat heavy in my chest. Because if he was choosing, then this wasn't about misunderstanding. This wasn't something that would clear up if I explained myself. This was something else. Something I still couldn't fully understand. My hands tightened instinctively against the restraints, testing them again without thinking. Still no movement. Still no give. My fingers were starting to feel numb now, like they weren't fully responding the way they should. I flexed them slightly just to make sure they still could move. They did. Barely. That tiny bit of control became everything in that moment. If I could still move, I wasn't completely trapped. If I wasn't completely trapped, there was still a chance. I held on to that. I had to. Because every other thought was starting to turn against me. The space around me felt smaller now. More closed in. Like the walls were closer than they were before, even if they hadn't moved. My breathing got heavier again, and this time I couldn't control it. No matter how much I tried to slow it down, it kept picking up faster, sharper. I needed to focus. Focus on something real. Something I could control. I looked toward the door again. Tried to picture the path, the distance, the time it would take. If I could just get one moment, one mistake from them. One of them shifted again. Closer. I froze immediately. That instinct hit before any thought could form. My body locked up, every muscle tightening at once. My breathing stopped for a second, like my body was trying to make itself invisible. He didn't rush. He didn't react to my reaction. He just stood there, watching. That feeling came back again. Stronger this time. Not clarity, but something close to it. Something that didn't feel right. Something that didn't fit with the idea that I could still control this. But I pushed it away. I had to. Because if I let that thought stay, then everything else would fall apart. No. The word came out quietly, almost under my breath. Not directed at them. Directed at myself. This wasn't over. It couldn't be. People get out of things like this. They find a way. They survive. I just needed time. Time to think. Time to understand. Time to find a moment where everything changes. Because it has to change. It has to. He moved again. Closer than before. Close enough now that I could feel the shift in the air around me. I didn't move this time. I couldn't. Not because I didn't want to, but because something inside me had gone completely still. Not calm. Not controlled. Just still. And in that stillness, for the first time, the thought I had been avoiding started to push its way in. Not fully, not clearly, but enough to feel it. Enough to know that something about this was never meant to be fixed. Still, I held on to the same thing, the same thought, the same hope, because without it, I didn't know what else was left.
The closer he stood, the harder it became to ignore what was building inside me. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was something heavier, something slower, something I couldn't fully understand, no matter how hard I tried. I forced myself to look at him. I didn't want to, but looking away felt worse. Like I would lose control completely if I stopped facing it. His expression didn't change. No anger, no hesitation, no urgency. That's what it makes sense. If this was about something, anything, there should have been a reason, a demand, a reaction, something I could respond to, something I could fix. But there was nothing, and that absence, that silence, started breaking everything I had been holding on to. No, I whispered, barely hearing my own voice. There has to be a reason. I tried again, one last time. Just tell me what you want. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. I can fix this, whatever it is. I can fix it. Nothing. Just silence. And then a voice. Low, calm. They didn't pay. For a second, my mind refused to understand. Didn't pay? Everything connected at once. This wasn't random. This wasn't confusion. This was time. Time I didn't even know I had. No, wait. My voice broke instantly. They just need time. I can call them. I can make them pay. But even as I said it, it didn't feel real anymore. Because something inside me had already started to fall apart. The silence came back. Heavier this time. Final. My breathing lost its rhythm. Uneven. Uncontrolled. I could feel something cold against my neck. Still. Unmoving. My entire body froze. Not slowly. Instantly. Every thought stopped. Every sound faded. No, please. The words barely formed. My body started shaking, not by choice, but like something inside me had completely lost control. I tried to breathe, but it didn't feel the same anymore. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. I collapsed to the ground. Hard. My body reacting on its own. Uncontrolled. Desperate, like it was trying to hold on to something it was already losing. I reached for my neck instinctively, my hands pressing against it, as if I could stop what was happening, as if I could take control again. But nothing responded. Nothing changed. My body didn't feel like mine anymore. Every second, it felt like I was slipping further away from it. The sounds around me became distant, muffled, like they were no longer meant for me. My thoughts started breaking apart, one by one, slipping away before I could hold on to them. There was no more control, no more strength, no more time to fix anything. And then something changed. Not outside, inside. A strange calm. Something I didn't understand. Something I couldn't fight. My breathing slowed, not because I wanted it to, but because it was happening on its own. And in that final moment, it felt like I was no longer inside my body, but watching it, letting go, without a choice. And then everything went still.
To this day, no one truly knows what happened in those final moments. No clear motive. No explanation. No answers. Just a story that ends in silence. Was it betrayal? Was it planned? Or was it something far more disturbing? Something that didn't need a reason at all? Some stories are too dark to be forgotten. If you want to hear more truths like this, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because the next story might be even worse.